On their 10th anniversary, Mira lifted a red paper lantern as if she were holding a secret that could break open the night. Soft music floated through the garden, and the fairy lights blinked like a row of tiny witnesses. Guests leaned in, laughter painted in bright strokes across their faces. Phones glowed. Cameras clicked. Everything shimmered with celebration. But Myra's hands were steady in a way celebrations never required. "Make a wish," she whispered, her voice light, but layered with something quieter. Something colder. Armin didn't hear the warning inside it. He stood beside her, the polished husband in an expensive suit, one hand resting on her waist as if they were a painting. His smile was bright. Too bright. A smile made for cameras, not his wife. The kind you practice in mirrors, not in marriage. Everyone adored him. Everyone envied her. And no one knew the truth she carried tonight. Behind them, their white mansion glowed like a stage backdrop. Tulips, carefully chosen, perfectly arranged, decorated every table. Red and white. His favorite. Not hers. A photographer weaved through the guests, capturing happiness from angles that flatter but never question. On a side table, dozens of red lanterns sat stacked, each tied with a thin black pen. A neat sign said, "Write a wish. Heat will make it glow." The guests loved it. They scribbled blessings, dreams, jokes, prayers. Only Mira wrote a message that was not a wish. Armin talked non-stop tonight. About loyalty, forever, marriage, legacy. He repeated trust, like it was a flavor he wanted people to taste. Clients murmured admiration. Friends praised his devotion. Guests clapped. Trust, trust, trust. If only they knew who he said it to every Thursday night. Mira smiled gently, the kind of smile a woman wears when she's already crossed the bridge of heartbreak and reached the land of clarity. She'd cried her tears weeks ago, quiet, invisible, careful. What remained now was accuracy, precision, strategy. The memory cut through her like a razor, lipstick on his shirt cuff. Not smeared. Not accidental. A perfect kiss print. A signature from a stranger. When she'd asked him, he laughed too hard, too loud, too fake. He tried to bury her question under party plans, venue suggestions, vow renewal speeches. He wanted volume to hide the truth. But Mira didn't raise her voice. She sharpened her silence. She watched. His calendar. His Thursdays. His phone disappearing from maps. His bar receipts. His hotel visits. Room 314. Again. White tulips on Fridays. Perfume on his jacket. The same sugary floral scent. Too sweet to hide. Betrayal has a rhythm. She memorized it. Now, under the warm lantern glow, she felt nothing except the patience of someone who already knew the ending. As the final toast was announced, everyone circled around. Armin lifted his lantern high, smiling like a man in a commercial. A server lit the wick beneath it. The red paper glowed, pulsing with heart-like heat. Phones rose. Guests leaned in. A perfect moment. Click. The photographer froze them, Armin radiant, Mira serene, lanterns glowing like small captured suns. Then Myra's gaze shifted. On the lace-draped table stood a different server. Not moving. Not blinking. Holding a sealed envelope. Waiting for her signal. Everything slowed. The lanterns. The wind. The whispers. The night. Then it happened. The heat touched Armin's lantern, her lantern, and shapes began to bloom beneath the thin red paper. Letters. Numbers. A message. Gasps slipped into the air. Someone dropped their glass. Armin kept smiling, unaware, but every guest now stared at the glowing words rising from his lantern like a confession made of fire. Thursday, room 314, white tulips. Silence cracked across the garden. Eyes widened. Mouths opened. A cold hush swept through the crowd, pressing down like a storm about to break. Armin finally sensed it. Too late. He turned toward his lantern, confusion wrinkling the edges of his practiced smile. Mira didn't look at him. She looked at the crowd. She watched them see what she had known. She watched truth glow. The lantern brightened, the words turning darker, bolder, undeniable. Heat made secrets rise. And this one rose like smoke that refused to disappear. A murmur rippled through the guests. Someone whispered, "Is that real?" Another said, "Room 314? Isn't that?" But before the shock fully anchored itself, the envelope in the server's hand trembled. Not because of the wind. Because something inside it flickered. A tiny red light. Blinking. Mira froze. She wasn't expecting that. Armin wasn't the only one hiding something. Her revenge wasn't the only revenge unfolding tonight. She realized with a chill creeping up her spine. Someone else had prepared a lantern for her too. But that truth. That name. That message. For a heartbeat, Mira thought she was imagining it. A soft red blink, faint, rhythmic, glowing through the paper of the envelope the server held. Not part of her plan. Not part of her ink. Not her handwriting. Not her revenge. A chilled ribbon of unease curled through her spine. The server, one she didn't hire, stood impossibly still, eyes lowered, holding the envelope like a sealed verdict. Behind him, lanterns floated upward in slow, trembling arcs. The guests had fallen into stunned silence. Armin's lantern glowed with the confession she wrote. Thursday, room 314, white tulips. But Mira barely saw it now. Her focus locked on the blinking red light. She gave the server a slight nod. He stepped forward and placed the envelope gently into her hand. Armin finally turned to her, confusion shaping his features. "Mira, what is going on?" But she didn't answer him. Not yet. Because when she broke the envelope seal, a second message slid into her palm, one written in invisible ink, waiting for heat. Just like hers. And at the bottom corner, tiny letters marked it. To Mira. From me. No name. But the lipstick on Armin's cuff suddenly felt like a whisper in her ear. The mistress. The woman. The Thursdays. She wasn't just a shadow. She wasn't just a habit. She had a plan too. The heat from the lanterns drifting above began to affect the page. Slowly, ghostly shapes surfaced under the warming air. Letters. Words. A sentence forming like a bruise rising to the skin. Mira held her breath as the message sharpened. Your study, Saturday night, 9:17 p.m. A moment. A time. Her house. Another line appeared beneath it. Ask him about the woman he hid there. The crowd didn't see this message, only Mira did. The night twisted. Armin's voice pitched. What is that? Mira, what are you holding? But she didn't look at him. Her eyes were on the message that didn't yet fully reveal its ending. And then the final line surfaced, darker than the rest. She left something behind. Check the second drawer. Myra's pulse stuttered. The mistress hadn't written a love confession. She had written a warning. Not for Armin. For Mira. A warning inside a trap. A trap inside a warning. The guests were murmuring now, heads spinning between Armin's lantern and Myra's frozen expression. Armin stepped closer, his confidence cracking. Mira, what is that? Show me. But she turned, slow and steady, her eyes colder than the night air. You should have chosen someone smarter, Armin. The crowd quieted instantly. Then a sudden voice broke the silence. It's starting on the other lantern. Everyone looked up. A second lantern, held by a woman near the back, was glowing differently. Words were surfacing on it too. Not Myra's words. Not her ink. Not her plan. The message burned through the red paper like a second strike. You think you're the only one who knows? Ask your wife about Saturday. A wave of murmurs rose. Armin's face drained of color. He turned sharply toward Mira. What did you do? Mira blinked slowly. I didn't write that. But the mistress did. The mistress who thought Mira was the enemy. The mistress who believed Armin when he spun stories about a cold, distant wife. The mistress who decided to expose Mira, not knowing Mira already held the match. A woman stepped forward from the crowd, slender, confident, wearing white tulips on her bracelet. The mistress. Her eyes were locked on Mira, not Armin. I thought you should know, she said softly. You weren't the only one being lied to. Gasps scattered like sparks. Armin spun toward her. Why would you? But she cut him off with a bitter smile. You told me she was cheating on you. You said she was controlling. Distant. You said she was the reason we had to hide. Armin's voice broke. That's not. You didn't tell me she was planning this. She gestured to the lanterns glowing overhead. You didn't tell me you were destroying both of us. The mistress lifted her chin, anger trembling in her voice. So I left something in your house. In the study. For Mira. For tonight. Mira felt the weight of 100 eyes swing toward her. The mistress took a step closer. He brought someone there, Mira. Not me. Someone else. Someone he said you'd never believe. Someone who knew your schedule. Someone who came through the back door. Myra's breath caught. Someone else? Armin's face collapsed into panic. That's enough, he barked, voice cracking. But the mistress didn't stop. You should check the second drawer. I'm sure the cameras caught it too. The guests erupted, whispers, gasps, hands covering mouths. The night had shattered. Armin lunged forward, grabbing Myra's wrist. Mira, please. Listen to me. Don't go. She pulled her hand free. For 10 years, she whispered. I did. The mistress stepped back into the shadows. The guests parted as Mira walked past them, calm, composed, heading toward the house, toward the study, toward the drawer. The truth she planned to reveal was no longer the only truth waiting. Armin staggered after her. Mira. Mira, wait. But she kept walking. Because the mistress's parting words burned louder than lantern flame. Check the drawer. You'll find the woman he hid, and the reason he never planned to let you leave. And that was how the night ended. Not with the lantern message Mira wrote, but with the message she never expected. The house looked different when Mira stepped inside. Not louder. Not darker. Just awake. The garden noises faded behind her, replaced by the soft, steady hum of her own pulse. Guests whispered outside like a distant storm. Armin's footsteps echoed behind her, uneven, frantic, almost childish. Mira, stop. Please. Just stop, he begged. But she didn't. She walked down the hallway with the same calm she had worn for 2 weeks. The calm of a person who had already accepted every truth, except one. The envelope in her hand still blinked faintly. A tiny red dot pulsing like a heartbeat trapped under paper. When she pushed open the study door, the room breathed out a smell she hadn't noticed before. Faint rose perfume mixed with something metallic. Her chest tightened. Someone had been here. Recently. And not quietly. Armin rushed in after her, grabbing her arm. Mira, wait. Just listen. She pulled free, her voice steady and soft. I listened for 10 years, Armin. Now I check. The lamp on the desk cast a warm circle on the floor. The shelves were neat. Nothing looked out of place. But the air felt wrong, like a memory shoved into the room and left behind. She walked straight to the wooden cabinet. The one the mistress mentioned. The one with the second drawer. Her fingers paused on the handle. Behind her, Armin's breath hitched. Mira. Don't. She opened it. At first, she saw nothing unusual. Pens, receipts, a notepad. Then her eyes landed on something tucked beneath a folder. A thin, silver flash drive. And beneath it, a long strand of hair. Soft. Curled. Not her color. Her lungs felt tight, but her eyes stayed dry. She lifted the drive between 2 fingers. "This isn't hers," she said quietly. Armin swallowed hard. "Mira, I can explain." She turned. "Then explain why the drive was hidden under someone else's hair." His mouth opened, closed. No words came. The blinking envelope buzzed faintly in her hand, a vibration this time, like a message waiting to speak. The mistress hadn't just warned her. She had triggered something. Mira plugged the drive into the laptop on the desk. Armin lunged. "No. Mira, don't." She stepped aside. Too fast. Too sure. The laptop screen lit up. A folder appeared. February 12th. Camera log. February 19th. Camera log. February 26th. Camera log. Her fingers trembled. Not with fear. With anger. "Camera logs," she whispered. Armin's face went white. "Mira, those aren't. It's not what you think." She clicked the first file. A video opened. A grainy recording from inside this very study. The timestamp, Saturday, 9:17 p.m. Exactly the time written on the mistress's invisible message. The footage showed the door cracking open. Someone stepping inside. A woman. Not the mistress. Not a client. Not a friend. A woman Mira recognized. Painfully, instantly. Her cousin. Samira. The cousin who visited, only when lonely. The cousin who loved borrowing books from this study. The cousin who always hugged Armin longer than necessary. The cousin Mira had defended when others warned her. Samira looked around the study, adjusting her hair in the reflection of Myra's photo frame. Her lipstick was the exact shade Mira had found on Armin's cuff. Myra's hand tightened around the desk edge. Behind her, Armin whispered, desperate. "It was a mistake. I didn't want you to find out." The video continued. Samira walked to the desk drawer. She placed the strand of hair. She checked herself again in the frame's reflection. She whispered something, too faint to hear, but her lips moved like a secret vow. Then Armin entered the study behind her. He touched her shoulder. Too familiar. Too soft. Mira paused the video. The silence in the room thickened. Armin reached for her again, voice cracking. It didn't mean anything. She was sad, Mira. Vulnerable. I was confused. Mira turned slowly. Confused, she repeated. On a Saturday night. In our home. In my study. His shoulders sagged. Outside, the guests were beginning to sense something was wrong. Voices rose. Footsteps approached. Mira clicked the second file. Same room. Different weekend. Samira again. Laughing this time. Armin again. Removing his jacket. The proof was no longer quiet. It was screaming. Armin stepped closer. Please, Mira. Say something. She did. What did you tell her? He blinked. What? She pointed at the frozen screen. What lie did you use on her? The same one you used on the mistress? That I was cheating on you? That I didn't care for you? That you were lonely? He flinched like the words were stones. I didn't. I needed. You needed them, she said softly. But you wanted me to stay. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Because now she understood. He didn't cheat for love. He cheated for control. The door suddenly burst open. The mistress stood there, breathless, eyes red, gripping her phone. Mira, she gasped. You need to see this too. He recorded all of us. Every woman. Every meeting. Every Thursday. Armin froze. No, don't. But she held up her screen. And he kept it in a private app. With your name as the password. Mira stared at Armin. He tried to speak. Mira, I love you. Her expression didn't change. No, she said. You love ownership. The camera logs glowed behind her. The drawer stood open. The envelope blinked one more time and then went dark. Message delivered. Mira closed the laptop. "Come outside," she said quietly. "It's time the guests see the full truth." Armin staggered. "Mira, don't do this." But she walked past him, lantern glow reflecting on her calm, steady face. Because tonight wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just exposure. Tonight was the night she would set fire to the story he controlled for years. The moment Mira stepped back into the garden, the air shifted. Conversations dropped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Even the lanterns seemed to glow a little harder, as if sensing the storm walking into the light. Behind her came the mistress, pale, shaken, clutching her phone. Behind the mistress came Samira, Myra's own cousin, frozen halfway between guilt and fear. Behind them, stumbling and sweating, came Armin. Guests whispered sharply. Something was wrong. And everyone could feel it. The servers formed a quiet line along the tables, holding lanterns, waiting for the signal. The photographer lifted his camera, unsure whether to keep shooting, but unable to stop. Mira walked calmly to the center of the garden. A soft breeze pulled at her dress, but her face was steady. Very steady. Armin reached for her arm. "Mira, please. We can talk inside." She didn't look at him. Not once. Instead, she glanced at the server holding Armin's lantern, the special one wrapped like a gift waiting to explode. "Give it to him," she said. The server obeyed. Armin stared at the lantern in confusion. "Mira, what is this?" But the crowd already sensed the answer. Mira lifted her chin. "Everyone, thank you for coming. Tonight is a celebration." She paused. A celebration of truth. A ripple of murmurs rolled through the guests. She raised her hand gently. The servers moved instantly, stepping forward with lighters. One by one, tiny flames touched the wicks beneath the lanterns. Soft red light bloomed everywhere. The garden was glowing. Waiting. Listening. Mira turned to Armin. "It's time." Armin shook his head, trembling. "Mira, don't do this here." But she stepped aside, giving the flame a clear path to the lantern paper. The invisible ink inside his lantern began to warm. 10 seconds. 12. 15. A shape formed. A number. Then another. Then a word. Guests leaned in, breaths held. At 20 seconds, the full message exploded onto the lantern like a confession written in fire. Thursday. Room 314. White tulips. Gasps ripped across the garden. Armin's face drained of all color. Clients, partners, friends, all stared at him like he had turned into a stranger. The mistress stepped forward. And that's only the beginning. The crowd turned toward her. She held up her phone, her voice shaking but loud enough to pierce the silence. "He lied to all of us. Not just to Mira." She pointed to Samira. "He slept with her too. In Myra's study. In her own house." Guests recoiled. Someone whispered, "His own wife's cousin?" Samira broke, tears spilling, body shaking, but Mira didn't look at her. "Not now. Not yet." Armin surged forward. "Stop. You don't know anything. You weren't supposed to." But the mistress cut him off. "Oh, I know. You recorded everything. Every woman. Every visit. Every lie. And the password for your private folder." She lifted the phone higher. Was Myra's name. The shock hit the guests like thunder. Armin's mouth opened and closed, like he was drowning on dry land. Then the courier stepped forward, exactly on cue, holding the envelope Mira had prepared. "Mr. Armin?" Armin staggered backward. No, don't give me that." The courier placed it firmly against his chest. "For you, sir." He looked at Mira, eyes wild. "Please, not this. Not here." She finally looked at him. Her voice was soft. Terrifyingly soft. You made your choices on Thursdays. I make mine tonight. Armin ripped open the envelope. Divorce papers. Receipts. Photos. Camera logs. Hotel timestamps. Floral purchases. Ink-activated evidence. His hands trembled so violently the papers rattled. Clients stared at him with disgust. Two of them, board members, stepped aside, whispering angrily. A partner muttered, "HR will destroy him." Another said, "The ethics committee, this is catastrophic." Mira heard everything. She didn't flinch. Armin dropped the papers. "Mira, I can fix this. I'll end everything. Just don't leave me." She stepped closer. "Leave you?" she said quietly. "No. Armin. I release you." Gasps again. Her voice was a blade wrapped in silk. "Keep the lantern," she added. The crowd erupted. Gasps, whispers, eyes wide with disbelief. The lantern in Armin's hand flickered violently, as if agreeing with her. His knees buckled. He fell forward, grabbing the air. "Mira, please." But the mistress spoke up sharply. "She spared you. Be grateful." Samira wiped her tears and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mira. I didn't mean." Mira turned her eyes toward her, steady and cold. "You meant enough to hide hair in my drawer." Samira broke down completely. The garden crackled with tension. One of the clients approached Mira quietly. "If you want to file a formal complaint with the board, we will support you." Another stepped forward. "You will receive compensation. Significant compensation." The HR partner added, "His career is finished." Armin collapsed to the ground, pleading, begging, hands shaking so hard the lantern nearly slipped from his fingers. Mira didn't touch him, didn't bend, didn't blink. She simply walked past him, toward the garden exit, lanterns glowing above her like quiet stars watching justice unfold. The mistress followed her. "Do you want me to go with you?" Mira shook her head. "No. You told the truth. That was enough." She stepped into the night air, the celebration behind her turning into the ruins of Armin's perfect world. And as she walked away, the wind carried a final whisper from the guests. She didn't just expose him. She destroyed him. She won. But the night wasn't finished. Not yet. Because when Mira reached her car, she saw something on the windshield. A note. A small envelope. Her name written in careful handwriting. Inside, a single sentence. "You exposed him tonight. Now it's time to expose the one he was protecting." Her breath caught. The night air was cold against Myra's face as she stood by her car, the garden lights glowing behind her like distant fireflies. She unfolded the note with steady fingers. Just one sentence. "You exposed him tonight. Now expose the one he was protecting." Her pulse slowed. Not with fear. With recognition. Someone had been watching the party. Someone who knew more than she did. Someone who wanted her to keep going. She folded the note again, slipping it into her purse. Behind her, voices rose. Confusion, whispers, gossip. Guests were still processing the explosion that shattered Armin's perfect world. The mistress cried quietly against a hedge. Samira hid her face. Armin knelt by the grass holding the lantern like a broken promise. But Mira didn't go back. She walked to her car door, opened it, and froze. Placed neatly on the driver's seat was another envelope. No handwriting. Just a single printed label. For Mir A. Her breath caught. She sat inside, locked the door, and opened it. Inside was a small USB drive. And a note typed in the same clean font. "He wasn't protecting your cousin. He wasn't protecting the mistress. He was protecting someone else. Look at the files. You'll understand." Myra's heart tightened, not from panic, but from focus. The night wasn't over. The truth wasn't complete. Armin's downfall was only Act 1. She inserted the drive into her car's dashboard USB slot. The screen flickered. A folder appeared. Protected logs. Access code 0217. Mira blinked once. She knew that date. Her birthday. She entered it. The folder opened. Inside were multiple video files labeled only by symbols. No names. Mira clicked the first. The screen showed a dim hallway, not the hotel, not the study, not any place she recognized. A woman entered the frame. Mira leaned closer. It wasn't Samira. It wasn't the mistress. It was her older sister, Zoya. Mira felt the world tilt. Zoya, the sister who never visited. The sister who vanished from family dinners. The sister who needed space. Zoya walked down the hallway nervously, checking behind her. She entered a door. Armin followed seconds later. Myra's hands shook for the first time that night. Her sister? Armin hadn't just cheated. He had protected someone. Hidden someone. Someone who should have been loyal to Mira more than anyone. She clicked the second video. Zoya again. This time sitting in a room with Armin. Laughing. Leaning close. Their knees almost touching. Pain sliced through Myra's chest, sharp and deep. The betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was blood deep. Family deep. The third video opened. Zoya and Armin whispering. Then a phrase tore through the car speakers. She can never find out. If Mira knows, everything ends. Myra's breath caught. The fourth video loaded. A dark room. A table. Documents. Zoya was signing something. Armin handed her a pen. A contract. Money. Transfers. Mira froze. Zoya hadn't just betrayed her emotionally. She had taken money. Signed deals. Helped Armin hide assets. Zoya wasn't a mistress. She was an accomplice. The woman he needed to protect the most. The real person behind the secrecy. The truth hit Mira like cold water. Armin hadn't cheated to escape boredom. He cheated because he thought he had backup, a safety net, someone to help him protect himself if Mira ever fought back. Zoya had been that safety net. Her sister. Myra's fingers curled into a fist. Anger didn't roar. It sharpened. Slow. Precise. Her next move became clear. Painfully clear. She stepped out of the car and walked back into the garden. The crowd parted instinctively. They saw the look in her eyes. Not tears, not heartbreak. Purpose. Armin looked up when she approached. Mira, please, can we go home and talk? No, she said. Her voice held no heat. Just a blade. I know who you were protecting. His eyes widened in panic. In the corner, Samira broke into fresh sobs. The mistress covered her mouth. Everyone leaned in. Armin whispered, terrified. Mira, please, don't say it. She didn't. Not yet. Instead, she pointed at the photographer. Bring your camera. He approached instantly. Then she addressed the garden. You all saw what he did to our marriage tonight. But what he hid goes deeper. He wasn't protecting a lover. He wasn't protecting a mistake. He was protecting a betrayal much older and much colder. Armin fell to his knees. No, please. Mira lifted the USB drive. This, she said quietly, holds the truth he buried. The truth that explains every missing hour, every lie, every fake story. Guests leaned forward like a crowd in a courtroom. But I won't show it here, she continued. Not yet. Shock rippled through the group. Armin looked relieved for a second, until she finished. I'll show it in court, in HR, in the board investigation, and to every legal authority reviewing our divorce assets. Armin's relief died instantly. Mira stepped closer, close enough that only he could hear. And after they see it, I'll show it to my family. Armin collapsed, choking out a broken sound. Because he knew exactly what that meant. Myra's final words rose softly, louder than any shout. This is no longer your story, Armin. This is mine. She turned, lifted her lantern high, and walked out into the night, not as someone betrayed. The night ended, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the lanterns drifting into the sky. The guests hadn't run, they had retreated, slipping away in slow, awkward steps, as if walking through a house where something fragile had shattered. Their laughter from an hour earlier echoed like a lie they regretted telling. They avoided Myra's eyes. They avoided Armin entirely. By the next morning, the city was already whispering. Screenshots. Clipped videos. A blurred image of Armin holding the glowing lantern. The truth traveled faster than anyone expected. Sharper than heat, brighter than flame. Inside the house, Mira moved like a quiet storm gathering strength. Her face wasn't angry. It wasn't broken. It was clear, the kind of clarity that comes only when someone walks through fire and realizes it didn't burn them. It polished them. Armin was the opposite. He paced the living room with frantic energy, phone pressed to his ear. No, listen. It wasn't. Look, it was a misunderstanding. He stopped mid-sentence, his voice cracking when the person on the other end hung up. He tried again. And again. Calls went unanswered. Clients sent short, stiff messages. One email asked him to resign. Another suspended him indefinitely. The fall had started. Still, he clung to Mira like she was the last piece of a collapsing building. Mira, please. We can fix this, he said, voice trembling. We'll go to therapy. We'll talk to your family. We'll explain. She lifted her head quietly. My family. Her voice had a cold, soft edge that froze him. Because Mira had not confronted him yet about Zoya, the sister who betrayed her, the sister who appeared in the hidden videos. She hadn't told him what she planned next. She was saving it. Sharpening it. Letting him feel the air before the blade touched skin. Armin stepped closer, desperation twisting his features. You're upset. You're hurt. But we can rebuild. No, she said simply. The word landed with more power than a scream. I am not hurt anymore, she continued. I am awake. Armin swallowed. Then at least hear me. Please. Mira closed her notebook slowly and looked at him properly for the first time since the party. You lied to me, she said. You lied to her. Her voice dropped lower. And you lied for someone. Armin froze. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. He knew what she meant. He knew exactly what she meant. Who told you? He whispered. Mira didn't answer. Silence was enough. His eyes darted, panicked. I can explain. But she stood, her expression calm in a way that terrified him. No. You can't, she said. And you won't. She walked away, leaving him standing in the middle of the living room like a man whose world had been turned inside out. By afternoon, the consequences spread farther. 2 board members sent warnings. One of his clients cancelled a multi-year contract. The HR department at his firm requested a formal meeting about ethical violations. Armin tried to hold everything together. Emails. Calls. Apologies. But everything slipped through his fingers. The lantern photograph, glowing red, time-stamped, undeniable, had already reached the wrong eyes. Meanwhile, Mira spent her afternoon preparing calmly. She reviewed legal documents with her lawyer, signed additional pages, collected screenshots from the protected drive, backed up the files twice. Not because she enjoyed it. Because accuracy was respect she owed herself. Are you sure you want to proceed? Her lawyer asked gently. Yes, Mira said. And tomorrow, I want an additional filing. Her lawyer frowned. Against Armin? No. Her voice sharpened. Against someone else. The lawyer nodded slowly. Your sister. Mira didn't flinch. She helped him hide money. She visited my home behind my back. And she let me blame strangers while she smiled in my face. The lawyer inhaled deeply. It will get messy. That's fine, Mira said. Messy is honest. That evening, when the house grew still, Armin came into the kitchen. His shirt was wrinkled. His hair messy. His eyes red. Mira, they suspended me, he whispered. They might fire me. Everything is falling apart. She poured tea without looking at him. Yes, she said. It is. He stepped closer. Please. I need you. She put the teapot down. No, she said softly. You needed someone to protect you. And you chose my sister. Armin's knees nearly buckled. How did you? Stop talking, she whispered. He did. For the first time in their marriage, he obeyed instantly. You and Zoya hid money, Mira said. You used her apartment as a second address. You let me look like a fool because you thought family loyalty would keep her quiet. Armin's face turned white. It's not what it looks like. It looks, Mira said calmly, like two liars caught by a woman who finally stopped giving them grace. He staggered forward, tears burning his eyes. Mira, please. But she stepped back. Tomorrow, she said, I will speak to Zoya. And then, I will finish what you started. His lips trembled. Finish what? She looked him dead in the eyes. My revenge. Armin collapsed into a chair, shaking, as if his bones had forgotten how to hold him. But Mira wasn't finished. As she walked past him toward the stairs, her phone vibrated. A message. From an unknown number. He wasn't the only one recording things. Your sister kept her own files. Check her storage unit. Number 47. Mira stopped cold. The message sat on Myra's phone like a heartbeat waiting to be answered. Your sister kept her own files. Check storage unit number 47. The words looked simple. They did not feel simple. Mira didn't react with shock or tears. She let the truth settle inside her like a stone dropped into still water, quiet at first, then widening into rings. The next morning, she drove to the storage facility with steady hands. The sky was pale, the kind of morning light that makes everything look honest whether you want it to or not. She gave the manager the number. He nodded, checked the records, and led her down a long corridor. Unit number 47. A metal door. A simple lock. Her sister's name on the file. The manager stepped aside. I'll give you privacy. Mira unlocked the door. The unit smelled like dust and old memories. Boxes lined the shelves. A few suitcases. A stack of binders. Nothing dramatic. Nothing loud. But Mira had learned a long time ago. The most dangerous things rarely looked dangerous. She opened the first box. Clothes. Old notebooks. A cracked photo frame holding a picture of Zoya and Mira as children. The second box contained envelopes. Letters written in Zoya's neat handwriting. Mira picked one up. The date was 5 years old. The content, however, was sharp enough to slice. Armin's name. Money amounts. Transfer schedules. Notes about M keeping her focus elsewhere. Mira exhaled slowly. Her sister hadn't just betrayed her heart. She had betrayed her life. She moved to the last binder, the one in the corner, taped shut. She peeled the tape back and opened it. Inside were printed screenshots from Armin's accounts. Hidden investments. A second address. Legal consultations dated months before Mira found the lipstick on the cuff. In the margin of one page, Zoya had written, "If she leaves him, make sure property stays untouched. We keep plan B. We. Not he. We." The betrayal was no longer a thread, it was a rope. Mira closed the binder quietly. She did not cry. The betrayal had already burnt clean. What remained now was clarity and purpose. That afternoon, she met with her lawyer again. She placed the binder on his desk. He glanced through the documents, his eyebrows rising with each page. "This changes everything," he said. "This is deliberate collusion, fraud, asset hiding, family involvement." He closed the binder carefully. "Mira, this isn't just divorce anymore. This is prosecution." Mira nodded once. "Proceed." The lawyer hesitated. "Against both of them?" "Yes," she said. "Both." The next week unfolded like a carefully conducted storm. Armin received the legal packet first. He opened it in the lobby of a corporate building, expecting a negotiation. Instead, he read the words, "Allegations of financial misconduct. Supporting evidence attached." Witnesses watched him sink into a chair as if the ground had vanished beneath him. He tried calling Mira. She didn't answer. On Thursday, the day he once reserved for tulips and lies, officers delivered a second notice to Zoya. Her hands shook as she read it. She tried to call Mira. She tried to apologize. She tried to explain. Mira rejected every call. Reconciliation was not part of her architecture anymore. Truth was. By Friday, the firm announced an internal investigation. Clients who once toasted Armin under lantern light now removed him from group chats, committees, even public photographs. His inbox filled with termination pending review notices. The fall was no longer quiet. It was an avalanche. And Zoya? Her stored screenshots, her notes, her handwriting, all became evidence. Her job placed her on indefinite leave. Her fiancé returned her ring. Her life cracked at the same seam she helped create. People whispered. She betrayed her own sister. She hid money for him. No wonder she disappeared from the family. Some truths glow in the dark. Through it all, Mira stayed calm. She continued her course. She cooked simple meals. She slept 8 hours a night. She watered her marigolds, the flowers that lasted through heat. One evening, she stepped into the garden where everything began. The lantern hooks still hung from the branches, empty now, gentle reminders. She carried one lantern, the last one she kept. Not the sample. Not the reveal. A new one. She wrote a message inside it, but not about Armin. Not about Zoya. Not about revenge. Her handwriting was steady. Freedom is the last truth. She lit the wick. The lantern warmed. The words glowed softly, honest, bright, unhidden. Then she released it. The lantern rose into the evening sky, wobbling gently, then lifting higher, until it blended into the quiet dusk, not carrying secrets this time, but carrying closure. She didn't watch it disappear. She turned toward her house, her home, with a small breath that tasted like new air. Friday slid into Saturday. Saturday into Sunday. The lawyer called. Everything is finalized. She thanked him. No celebration. Just certainty. The city continued. But the story changed. People remembered the night a garden glowed with the truth. They repeated the story in offices, in cafes, at dinner tables. Not as gossip, but as a reminder that betrayal always blooms somewhere, and so does justice. And somewhere across the city, Armin sat alone in a small rented apartment. A man who once lived in applause now living inside consequences. Zoya, too, walked through her days quietly, learning the taste of losing what mattered most. Mira didn't follow their steps. She didn't need to. Because revenge wasn't the lantern. It wasn't the crowd. It wasn't the downfall. Revenge was this. A life that no longer bent around someone else's shadows. Mira stepped inside her home, closed the door gently behind her, and whispered the last line of her story. I release you. Keep the lantern. This time, it wasn't addressed to Armin. It was to the past. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the story, please hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon. Comment below for more stories like this. Your support means the world to us.